Good afternoon, friends. Another day working on the 1975 Shovelhead. And since we've been working on the front end, we're going to stick to the front end area and remove the front fender today. Now, I understand that this front end is not the same front end you'd see on most bikes. This has been altered. This fender is an aftermarket style fender or a later model wide glide front end fender. You would have seen in, I believe, 84 or 85, the Shovelhead and Evo models came out with what was called the wide glide. And what that did was it took a 19-inch front wheel, which is a narrower wheel as opposed to the 16-inch, 3-inch wide fat wheel, and it gave it a skinny front wheel with a skinny front fender on a wide set of triple trees and wide legs. So you had your 41 millimeter front end with a narrow front wheel. So this fender could be one of those. I'm not exactly sure. I'll have to get it off, take a look at it, and see what I can see on it. From this angle, I believe that this is aftermarket, but I can't really tell. It could be a stock fender from a later model. Again, I'm not sure until I get it off. This should be a fairly easy project. This is something that's fairly straightforward. It is easier to do with this type of fender as opposed to an FL style fender, where those fenders are kind of really compressed between the two legs. And it's almost easier to remove the fender without the wheel in place. But since this is an easier fender to remove, we can take this off without taking the front wheel off. When it comes to removing one of these front fenders, there are 4 studs that hold the fender in place, and you can see where those mount within the lower legs on these front ends. So on the 41s, you'll see these 2 tabs. On the 35s, there are similar style of tabs. On the inside of these, there are 4 half-inch studs. Usually they're half-inch. I haven't run into any other sizes unless someone found a weird goofy size that they shoved in there, or if the leg has been repaired. Sometimes these tabs will break off or break a stud off and they have to be drilled out, and then I have seen smaller studs put in place where somebody has drilled and tapped it with a different size. So I usually like to start with the back stud first, and I'm going to loosen that up. I'm just going to try to loosen them with the socket wrench, and then I'll get on them with a regular wrench. We'll repeat the process on the right-hand side of the bike, working from the front to the rear here. Again, these are a half-inch stud. Now that I have all the bolts loose, I should be able to get on the rest of it with a regular wrench, and I have my ratcheting wrenches here. Now when removing the studs, you want to support the fender. That way it doesn't tip or fall, and it's going to eventually do that. So I'll take my back 2 studs out first. Now I'll work forward into the forward studs, still supporting the fender. Now I'll rest the fender down onto the lower leg here and onto the tire. From the left side of the bike, this is where we'll finish. Now that I have all 4 studs out of the way, you have to compress both sides here. You'll bring it up and you'll push them in a little bit and pull the fender towards you. With the fender removed, we're one step closer to getting this bike apart. Now looking over this fender and looking at its construction and how it's made on the ribs and how they're rolled here, I do believe that this is a Harley Davidson fender. The quality and craftsmanship on their fenders is usually a little nicer than it is on the aftermarket stuff. If you see something on this that tells you that this is aftermarket or that it's stock, please let me know. A couple of things I'm looking at is the rivets are very small. The edges are rolled in very nicely all the way around, even in the front. The brace is the same throughout and is rolled inward, so it fits really nicely. So I do believe that this is a Harley fender from a later model. Well, the parts pile is continuing to grow, so soon I'll be putting these things online. I'm not quite ready yet. I'd like to get a dozen things set aside so I can start taking photographs, take some time, and put them online. Again, friends, another quick and easy video. Taking the front fender off of this style of front end is pretty easy. Even on the 35 millimeter front ends, it's fairly straightforward and fairly simple. When you get into the FL style fenders on this type of a front end, you do run into a little bit of an issue trying to press the fender together to roll it out. It's really easy to drop the fender straight down through the legs. That way you're protecting your paint and you're not risking bending the fender or flexing it in a strange way. Of course, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, give it a like. I really appreciate that feedback. If you have any questions, comments, please drop them in the comments section below. If you see something on that fender that makes you believe that that's a stock OEM fender or it's aftermarket, enlighten me, please. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button. This bike is slowly coming apart. I'm releasing videos as fast as I can with each individual piece while this thing comes apart. And if you're not subscribed, you may miss one. Hopefully these videos are finding you well. They're very helpful and informative, and I appreciate you all sticking around and watching this until the end.